Hey there internet, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to have a look at how to spin a spinning plate. Let's get started then. In this video we're going to have a look at a bunch of different things actually. We're going to go over a couple of ways that you can get your spinning plate started, going from like the super basic one where you just kind of place it on and give it a spin. We're going to do the classic start where you start with it cold and go up to spinning, and even up to my favorite, which is the throw start. As well as a couple of starts, we're going to then have a look at a few different tricks and stuff that you can try with the plates once you've got it spinning. Quick fact for today though, this probably learning to spin a plate used to be the most requested thing for me to teach people up when we had the shop up in town. Well, let's get into it then. So, first of all, how are we going to hold our stick? It seems like kind of a silly one because, you know, everyone knows how to hold a stick. However, I think there are things that you can do with this that are going to really help you when it comes to like getting it spinning. So the way I want to hold them for this is we're going to use our fingertips here, and we're going to have our first finger, our index finger, kind of pointing up the stick. This gives like a bit of like almost as if you're pointing at someone, but you're going to point that finger up the stick. This is going to give you like a good bit of control and like fine control over where the stick is pointing and where it's moving and how accurately you can move it. This is going to be really useful later on. Great, so now that we've got our stick held properly, let's get the plate spinning on it then. First of all, we're going to do the most basic plate spin. This one is one that I would do with total beginners. It's also good for like really small children. I've had children as small as like 3-4 years old manage to do this and have a great time. So we're going to start by holding our stick. We're going to have the plate held upside down on the tips of our fingers in this kind of like, imagine you're like extending your fingers up sort of position, and you're going to have the plate sitting on top. We're going to take the stick and put it point down onto the plate from upside down. Then we're going to turn the whole thing 180 so it inverts. And then to give it a little spin, you're just going to give your fingers a little bit of a twist. Great. And there's our plate spinning on the stick. Things to watch with this, once you get it on the stick here, you can actually let go and it's just going to sit. But obviously it's not going to have like a lot of stability until it's spinning. The kind of gyroscopic motion of the plate spinning is what gives it stability on the stick. So even if it's on and sitting there, and so to start with, it doesn't need to spin fast. You just need to get it spinning at all. Because as soon as it's spinning at all, it is like a million times stabler here. Because there is just like the tiniest bit of spin, and you can see my little movements ain't throwing it off. Comparison, here's it with no spin. If I give it any wiggle from side to side at all, it's just gonna fall straight off. Here we go with the like smallest amount of spin I can possibly give it. And the wiggle from side to side, and it's staying on. And I can make it fall off. I can push it further enough to fall off, but compared to the stationary one where it just like instantly is gone, once you've got the plate on and spinning a tiny bit, speeding it up is probably the next thing you're going to want to do. My favorite way of this for beginners, and for, to be honest, anyone, is we're going to do like a kind of basketball style speed up where imagine you've got your ball slipping in your finger and you go, and that's going to put speed into it. What we're going to think about is first of all the direction our plate is spinning in. And my plate, if I look down on it, is going anti-clockwise here. So I'm going to put it left hand, and I'm going to give it like a little tap here with my right hand from inside to outside. So imagine from the inside of my body towards the outside of my body, that's the direction it's spinning. If I was on this side here, I would be tapping it towards myself. I personally find the speed up away from yourself much more natural. So I normally would swap it to my left hand to do this if it's going this direction, obviously. And you can push this pretty much as far as you want. You kind of want to be pretty gentle with it. If I get too rough, you see there, it just gets knocked and gets off. If I am a bit less rough with it, but pretty solid, you can see it ends up with this little wobble, but that stabilizes out in a little bit. Whatever speed up you want to do with it, whether it's inwards or outwards, right hand or left hand, just make your pick and try and be at the start just as gentle as possible though. Because if you keep it nice and flat and stable while it's being sped up, you're going to end up with a really solid, consistent spin on the plate. Alright, so now that we can get it spinning a little bit, doing like a really easy method, and we know how to speed it up afterwards, let's have a look at some fancier starts then. So the classic plate spinning start is really from the plate kind of here, on its kind of sitting on the edge on the stick. And what we want to do is we want to start speeding up like this, until it goes up into a spin. Let's talk about how this works. First of all, the motion with your hand that's going to be really important is we want to imagine the tip of our stick here is drawing like a really small circle. Obviously it's facing up, so I'm like drawing a really small circle on the roof. This circle is going to get bigger and bigger and faster until it reaches the width here of the rim on the inside of our plate. This is the maximum size our circle wants to get to. So when we're putting this into practice, we're going to start it here, and before we think about the circle, we just want to get it spinning a little bit. So this is kind of drawing the circle already. I can like just give my stick a little bit of like a kind of circular motion here, and you see how it kind of already starts to spin a little bit. From here, what we want to do is just kind of speed that up a little bit, and you can do this, just speeding it up without really making the circle bigger, and you see now the plate is kind of going round the stick, okay? What we want to try and do next is instead of the plate going round the stick, you want the stick to start drawing that bigger circle. And you see here instead the plate, if I can get it nicely, is pretty much isolated, so it doesn't actually really move. And instead, my stick is really doing the full size of the circle, and we're going fast enough that instead of it like drooping down on the side as you're doing the spin, so you can kind of imagine that you're pushing upwards on any one point of it in really quick succession, which is meaning that the plate is staying level. So, if we go again, and we get to this point here where it's kind of, you're pushing around the edges, your circle is going nice and fast. You can see there, I'm actually having to put quite a bit of speed into it here. You can go even faster. And this is what's generating you the speed that your plate is going to spin at. Once you're here, the next step is going to have to be getting the stick into the center of the plate. Disclaimer, this step here took me absolutely forever to master. I still get it wrong half the time and it doesn't work, hence why filming this video is done in so many shortcuts right now. But basically all you're really going to want to do is think about going from this big circular motion that you're doing and just stopping. And you just want to try and like stop and really lock the stick in place. And hopefully what's going to happen is when you're here and you're going around and you just stop it and you lock it in place, it's going to naturally find its way to that center point of the plate. This is probably the hardest step in getting this plate spinning kind of method to happen. It's really, you just kind of got to feel it. I don't know if there's really much more of an explanation that I can give that's going to be useful. You just want to get it going nice and fast and stable. So once you've got this spin really stable, this is the thing I would work on. Getting it to do that jump to the center of the plate really can almost feel like luck to begin with. There's a certain like kind of movement where you want to like bring it towards the center, but you don't want to consciously do that too much because it's quite hard to like, I don't know, aim towards that center point. I find that it's actually my fingers that are tensing on the stick to really like try and lock in the stick. Here I'm gripping it quite like loose, to be honest. And then when I want to jump into the center, I'm really just like locking my fingers in. That's probably the most useful tip I can give you for this. It's just going to be a matter of practice. The last method we're gonna have a look at today is the throw start. So I think the best way to think about starting this is to kind of think about this kind of like frisbee kind of action where you're like flicking your wrist out to get the spin on the plate. Obviously, if you just kind of like let go with this, you would throw the plate and it would go and knock things off the table. So instead, we want to counter that action by bringing our hand backwards at the same time. We're gonna be here, we're gonna kind of think about that flicking it forward motion, but also bringing our hand backwards. So you kind of get this bit here where it like isolates kind of round the edge of the plate. So see if I can do that nice and slow and clean. There you go. And so when you do it fast, you get this kind of feel where the plate spins lots. It's sometimes going to come forwards, sometimes going to come backwards, sometimes going to go nice straight up and down. But with a bit of practice, you can dial it in. For a start, what I generally like to do with this is either I'm going to have stick in my other hand, and either I can go and try and catch it in my other hand, but if you're not comfortable with the left hand catch, that might be a little difficult. The other options are we can start with it in the other hand, we're going to do the throw, and then swap the stick back to our dominant hand. For me it's my right, and then do the catch. Or my actual preferred one is I'm going to hold the stick in my right hand, just kind of there. I'm also then going to take the plate in my right hand, so I've got both here, and I'm going to just do the move and catch it on the stick. Catching the plate on the stick is a thing that we can practice as well. It was going to be the next thing that I talked about in this video. It was going to be throws and catches and stuff, but I think it's kind of useful to learn here as well. So the best way I would say to go about practicing this is just get the plate spinning however you want, do the easy method. And from here, we're just going to practice giving it like a little throw up and down. And you really want to think about cushioning that landing. So I'm not just going to like stay there and be like really solid in my arms so when it hits, it's just going to bounce off. If you're really solid with your catch in your arm here, you know, and you give it a throw, it's just going to bounce off most of the time. So yeah, good practice I would say is to think about like kind of cushioning it down. So when you want to catch it nice and high, and then bring your hand down with the plate as it comes down to kind of like remove the speed from it. So let's go up and down, up and down. Obviously you can do this with really small throws and it's going to be pretty chill and pretty easy, but you can definitely build this up to work with really high throws. I only have so much height in here, but let's see if we can do like a nice like ceiling height throw there. And you do have to cushion this one quite a lot on its way down though. If you play kendama at all, it feels very much like that kind of kendama sort of, you bend the knees to like help cushion the catch. So putting it all together, we've got our kind of frisbee-esque spinning throw, and then we've got our catch. Boom. And it's kind of a fun way to get like a one-handed plate spin on the go. If you're feeling really adventurous, you can even try 2 plates. You can obviously try 2 plates with any method of spinning them and starting them, except our really beginner one. But this is kind of fun. But yes, so now that we know how to get our plates started and spinning, let's try some tricks. Some of the first tricks that I think we should try, we've already kind of talked about a little bit. It's the throw and catch. But you can also try all sorts of other fun things with your throws and catches. You can try, say, putting it over your arm. You can try some fun things with the stick while the plate's in the air. This one's definitely easier with a double-ended stick, but we did over the arm already, but you can also go to any kind of body throws from juggling with this, behind the head, under the legs, all that kind of stuff. The other type of trick we're going to kind of talk about today is we're going to talk about balances. So the first balance that I would probably recommend for most people to try, whether or not you've balanced anything before, is just placing the stick in the center of your hand, boom, and trying to keep this going. Spinning plates are actually really good for balancing because they have a lot of stability, obviously with the kind of gyroscopic motion of the plate at the top. And in terms of props that you can balance stuff with, plates are really good. If you want some more tips on general balancing stuff, we have a video from a little while ago here all about how to balance objects, so maybe go check that one out and come back. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to talk about the basics of it. So what I'm thinking about here is when I've got it balanced in my hand, I want to be looking at the top of the point of the stick, either that or kind of at the center of the plate somewhere, so I can see and get like good feedback on where it's moving to. You never want to be looking down at the bottom of your hand here. This is going to make it impossible to balance. You want to be looking right up at the top. And then the goal is to try and keep that top point as stationary as possible. If you've balanced things already, there are a bunch of cool balance kind of challenges you can set yourself. So another fun one you can try is trying to move it from around your fingers and stuff. This one is a little easier with the juggling club because it's got a wider base. The spinning plate stick that I have here today has quite a thin kind of base to it, so getting the accuracy is a little bit difficult, but you can still do some of the fun ones. So like you can go from your thumb here and try and walk it across to your finger. Once it's on your finger, you can go back to your thumb, then down to your middle finger. Maybe I'm going to go back to the thumb, to my ring finger, oh, back to the thumb, then down to the pinky. If you're feeling good about that one and you don't want to go back to the thumb each time, you can try it without the thumb. So I'm going to start it on my pinky. I'm just going to go straight over to my ring, and then to the middle, then up to my index, but dropped it, but you get the idea. As well as on your hands and stuff, there are a bunch of other points you can try and balance this. You can pick any kind of points on your arms. Whoop. You can always try the face balance, which I think I'm gonna have to duck down to be on camera. Basically anywhere that you could balance a club or another object, you can try and do it with plate. So, fun games to try. But yeah, there are a bunch of crazy kind of spinning plate tricks you can do as well. Obviously, this is quite a basic tutorial here, but if you want to see some like absolutely fantastic plate spinning, I'm going to leave a link down in the description to a juggler called Masa, who I got to meet once actually, who does like the most ridiculous stuff with like 3 plates and 2 sticks going at the same time, and just you got to check it out. It's absolute madness. Last little note for this video, obviously the type of plate and type of stick you are using does really make a difference to this. The ones I have here are our Cascade branded plates. They're kind of just like a really basic kind of soft, durable, like you can be pretty like brutal to them and like fold them up and they just kind of pop back. But obviously they're quite cheap sort of beginner plates. Something with a bit more weight around the rim is going to maybe be a better shout if you want to, you know, do some like serious plate spinning sort of stuff. And obviously you can get kind of proper like ceramic plates that would work for plate spinning. However, they are pretty rare to find ones that have the right shape, and even then, because they're quite heavy, you need a specific type of stick that's going to be strong enough. The ones we have here are like fiberglass and quite like flexible, so they're just going to bend if I put the weight of this plate on the stick. I would not recommend trying to do this with the plates in your house. But anyway, that is it for our video today. I hope you've enjoyed this one and got something useful out of it, maybe learned a new skill, and I'll see you in the next video.